Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm Bill McMinn from Eagleville Bible Church. Steve Sargent from the Hiawatha Church of God in Christ. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. You got it right. You have it down pat, actually.
Dude, I've said it 1,000 times. That's why. Because we did so many people, you may not realize this, but when we did Christian Country Morning, Steve was a regular. Yeah. I did more shows with you in that last 3 years that we were on there than I did with anyone.
Wow.
We were doing shows together all the time.
I'm honored.
Yeah, and then that's why I kept you for the podcast.
Thank you.
So I like you to be a regular part of this too.
Well, thank you.
Right, so keep that in mind.
I'll have my agent contact your people.
Thank you. Your people contact my people. Every time I contact you, I got to go to Mississippi. My cousin died. I got to go. I'm going to be in Chicago. I'm going to be in every time lately. I'm like, how much traveling can you do?
Well, I'll be doing a lot lately.
Oh, man. You have been doing a lot. I'm sorry about your cousin, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And you did that last week, right?
We didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go?
We were advised not to go.
You know what? We could have done the show last week.
Yeah, you're right.
But you know what? The Lord's will was do it this week.
Yes.
So this is how I'm going to accept that. Like we talked last podcast. I'm not trying to control the details, Steve. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I'm just going to accept it as it comes. But one of the things I want to talk about as we get towards Christmas is the genealogy of Christ. And it sounds boring. Boring. You know, who wants to talk about genealogy? We don't think much about that. But listen now, there's some really interesting stuff in that genealogy because some of the people in the ancestry of Christ are people you wouldn't think would be in the ancestry of Jesus Christ. So Salmon, father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. So now you're looking at like a great-grandma. It's Rahab. For David, who's one of the most famous kings, and certainly the king who is the, how would you say, the precursor, the type of Christ, the one that, the Messiah would come in the line of David. Always David, yes. David. Rahab was a prostitute. Remember that story?
Yes.
Go ahead. What was it?
Well, Rahab, the harlot, as she was called. I actually preached this sermon once about her. That was her official title. Right. Rahab, the harlot.
The harlot.
Not like Demetrius, the silversmith.
Right.
Rahab, the harlot. What a title to have.
You're right. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that.
That was her, like if she would have had an office, it would have been Rahab, the harlot, on the outside of the door. What an introduction to thanks a lot. I
know. It wasn't like a PhD. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Could be other initials associated with it, but you're right. I mean, she was known as that. She was known as the prostitute.
That's right.
Right. Because she gave her body away and sold it to men. I mean, that's what she did in the city of Jericho. And when Israel came to conquer Jericho and they were hiding, they were spying out, they sent the spies out in the land to spy it out. She hid them.
Yes, she did.
And saved their lives because she knew they were going down. She knew that God was taking over that country and whatever, and she decided, I'm going to be on God's side instead of this side.
She'd heard of how God had worked with them and caused defeat among their other enemies.
Right.
So they had a reputation before they ever got there
that
she knew about. She must have read it in a magazine, I guess.
So let's recognize there is a prostitute by title.
That's right.
An earned title in the genealogy of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And what do you take from that?
Well, from that, I take that God, number one, loves us all. Number two, he doesn't use our past to dictate our future.
Right.
He still has a calling and a selection for our lives if we'll receive them.
Right.
Regardless of whatever our past is or our present, for that matter. He still has a plan for us.
Now, let's recognize that the Bible didn't glorify that.
Right.
That the Bible didn't say, keep her there. She became something different.
Sure.
She became somebody's wife. So eventually she's not Rahab the harlot anymore. She actually becomes Rahab. Actually, she is the mother of Boaz, right? Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Ruth. So yeah, Salmon, whose mother was Rahab, and then Boaz would it be a grandkid then, right? So as it goes down into it. So, well, no, that would be Boaz's mother. Yeah, actually. So Boaz was famous in the Bible. I mean, because Boaz shows up with Ruth.
That's right.
In the story of Ruth, and he's the main figure, the kinsman redeemer. So I think it's so amazing that God, it's never too late to turn your life around. And no matter what you've done, no matter what your title, you know, so-and-so the drug dealer, so-and-so the burglar, so-and-so the adulterer, so-and-so, whatever it was, your reputation was, can be changed. Because the reputation in the New Testament that Rahab has is one of faith.
Yes.
That's her reputation. Like, if you ask, well, what was Rahab known for in the Bible? She was known for her faith because she believed in God and she put her faith in God and she acted on that. And in James 2:25, in the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute, which is, there's your title, considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction. As a body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. And they were using Rahab as an example of faith. And then in Hebrews 11, which is the famous kind of hall of fame of people of faith, it says, by faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. By faith, she welcomed these spies and did what she did. So what is she known for in James and Hebrews? Two books, by the way, in the New Testament that are right next to each other. What is she known by? She's known for her faith.
Yes, she is.
Right.
Right. Not for her occupation, but for her faith.
Right. So she's not just a woman of the street. She's a woman of faith.
Yes.
She was a prostitute. She became a person of faith who believed in God. It changed her life around to the point that she's even in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. So I would say it's never too late to turn it around.
To get your life straight.
To get your life straight.
Right.
No, I don't think you should think you're too far gone. I don't think that you should hold your past and say that what I was in the past is what I'm always going to be. I also, by the way, don't think we should freeze frame people at their worst moment, because everyone's got a worst moment.
Right.
And sometimes we freeze frame people in their worst moment and we never let them out of it.
That's right.
Something they said, something they did, and I don't think that's fair either. I think that everyone should have a chance to get back on their feet. But when it comes to showing faith, how are we showing faith? Because I think even in COVID, I think this is an opportunity not to shrink back. This is an opportunity to be bold, to serve people, to help people, and to be that person of faith, and just to count on God to help you out. Don't quit serving. Don't quit worshiping. Don't quit believing.
That's right.
Don't quit getting out there among mankind. Don't quit. Don't quit. You know, there's people who need help, and we need to help them, right?
That's right. We still need people to be delivered. We need the gospel to be shown, and it's probably a perfect time right now with so many people going through sickness and uncertainty, fear.
Right.
That's the perfect time for us to show up and show the light of Christ.
I think too, even when I was sick, I mean, it was you had to count on God and just say, well, God, I got to trust you in this. And, where does my help come from? Right. My help comes from the maker of heaven and earth. That's where my help comes from. It's God. I look to him. And so I reminded myself of these verses. Hey, Bill, your faith has to be there and you trust in God. So if I woke up in the middle of the night and I didn't really know what direction it was going to go or what, because you can't know in those initial days what hand you've been dealt. And you can feel fine for 4 days and then get whammed by it. So you don't really know. So you have to just count on God for all those things. And when I would wake up thinking about such things, I would be praying. And I would be thankful that it wasn't worse. I would be praying for other people that I knew was sick. I would be counting on God. I mean, what kind of faith do you have if you're not even praying about it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Faith.
So our faith to be tested. And that's when we find out where we are.
Right.
Not where he is, but where we are.
Well, how can your faith not be tested? I mean, and if it wasn't this, it's something else.
That's right.
And there's always going to be something that challenges our faith and what we really believe in. Like they said about Rahab and why she's so famous is she did something. She hid those spies. She did something for God that showed her faith that God was indeed going to give the land of Canaan to the Israelis.
Yes.
That was going to happen. God promised it to Abraham. Through all those descendants, that's that nation that grew in Egypt. God delivered them by Moses. Now they've been wandering for 40 years. Now it's time for them to take the promised land. And she believed that was indeed going to happen.
That's right.
That God was more powerful than any God that they had in Jericho or whatever they had going on. She believed her faith was clearly in God, and she acted on that faith. If my faith is clearly in God, then how am I acting on that faith? Am I praying? Am I helping? Am I serving? Am I living a non-fearful life? Because no, my faith and trust and my confidence 100% God. I think it's a good challenge for all of us. It's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for you.
Absolutely. It is a challenge.
Right?
Yes. A very good challenge for us.
I think, too, in verse 6, look at this. Now, and Jesse, the father of King David, David was the father of Solomon, Solomon known as the wisest king that ever lived, right? Whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Now, what's that about? Like, what's that little reference there, Uriah's wife?
Well, Uriah kind of, well, not so much him, but David had messed up.
Right.
And
with
Uriah's wife.
Bathsheba.
Right. Now, and I guess if it was in our modern day, we would say he conspired to have him killed.
Right.
For what he had done, and he impregnated her.
Right.
So to cover it up, he had him killed to make it seem like, well, this poor widow here, and I'm just going to go ahead and marry her.
Right.
And that was his baby, and not, it was her husband's baby, and not him.
Right. Uriah was such a good man. And I think it's interesting that they mention Uriah and they throw his name in the genealogy of Christ, because he's not in the genealogy of Christ.
Right.
His wife is.
Right.
Because his wife is the mother of Solomon. Solomon then becomes the line through which all the other kings come from. It's David, then Solomon. So I look at him. Uriah was such a good man that when after David, he goes and sleeps with Uriah's wife. She gets pregnant. That's what happens, right? So you go through now he's got a mess on his hands. So he calls Uriah back. Hey, give me a report. Hey, why don't you go home, to be with your wife?
Right.
And then he finds Uriah has been sleeping outside of the palace, sleeping on basically the slab, the stone that was there, because he said, there's no way I'm going to go home, enjoy time with my wife when my fellow soldiers are on the field. I mean, this is a man of courage. He's tough. He's dedicated. So what he did was David sent a note to his commander. He sent Uriah back to the front lines, and he said, put him on the front lines, back away from him.
Everybody leave him alone.
They left that man out there at the city wall. And then so David sent a message, they send David a note of what had been happening in the battle. The note said, so many people were killed. They said, David's going to yipe about why we're so close to the city wall. And you're going to say this, Uriah, your servant, is also dead. And then all of a sudden, David was okay with it. David killed that guy.
Yes, he did.
He might not have put a spear through him. He might not have put his hands around his neck. He gave a direct order to have that man killed, that allowed that man to get killed in battle.
On purpose.
On purpose. He slept with the guy's wife. He has the guy killed. He takes her now as his own wife. Yet Solomon's from her, and this is all in the line of Jesus Christ. That's a mess. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That is an absolute mess. And one of the things that I appreciate about God is he works in broken situations. This is a nightmare. Yeah. Yet David is known as a man after God's own heart, because David he fouled up. Yeah. And he paid for that, because as Nathan the prophet told him, the sword will never depart from your house. And it never did. He had so much intrigue with his own kids. He had so many problems with his own kids. Why? As consequences, buddy. You know what I mean? Well, he shouldn't have done it the first. It's not that God was happy and overlooked it. There were still consequences David had to pay for what he did. But he wasn't thrown out. He wasn't ignored. God didn't turn his back on him. And I think that and David did repent. I mean, you read Psalm 51. I think it's Psalm 32 is the other one where there's that big confession that he has. Yeah, man, he was working.
Yeah, he was.
With David, and David repented. David's life changed. And so God accepted that. And even when we foul up and we do broken things, it's nice to know God still accepts us and he still cares about us.
And it's good to see these in people's, from the history of the Bible, the genealogy of Christ, and those people that were not so good, or their past wasn't impeccable, because we all have issues like that, either in our own life or in our family's life.
Right.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that God can still use us.
Right.
And he can forgive us, redeem us, and he's still chosen us to do a work for him in spite of whatever happened.
Right. Don't think you're damaged goods.
That's right.
I don't think that we can think that life's over because we've made a mistake. There's always the way back. To me personally, I'm going to accept anyone who's repentant. I'm going to accept anyone who's willing to come back, say they're sorry for the things they've done, and they can understand it. Okay. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here. My life is too short. I got too much going on to be holding things against people for whatever they did.
Yeah.
When they've come around and tried to make it right. God works in broken, messy situations.
Yes, he does.
And that might be, whoever's listening, that might be their family right now.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the situation in which they find themselves. Sometimes, you know, you have kids, and kids do things they shouldn't do. And next thing you know, that's now tumbled into your life.
Yeah.
And you got to deal with all that stuff.
You know, I went to Arby's once, and I'm just going to confess, I don't have anything against Arby's. I just don't prefer it. But during Lent, I like the fish that they have. So I had ordered, got orders from the people from work. We're going to buy lunch for everybody. So we got how many ever orders and all in one bag. And you pull up to the drive-thru, and they went to hand me the bag, and it slipped, and it just all fell in the parking lot.
Oh.
Everything. And they told me, "Oh, we're so sorry. Just pull up, and we'll, make you new ones." Pull up. They came out, brought us new stuff with more in it, and they also gave us what they call a Make It Right coupon. So the next time we come, you get a free meal, the
Right.
sandwich or what, a side and a drink for free on them.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
And that's what Christ does for us.
Right.
He has a way of making it right. Even though life has dealt us a hard hand, we might have had some tumultuous situations in our life. We might have fallen, but he not only picks us up, he makes us whole. He makes us better than what we were, and then gives us those Make It Right coupons. So now we can share what he's done with us, with other people.
Right. No, I'm with you, man. I think it's a great point that he can make it right. And the interesting thing about Jesus, it wasn't his mistake.
Right.
Not God's mistake that we made a mess or our home life was dysfunctional or we were raised a certain way. And that's what people I feel about. Some of the people that run into problems, I mean, they had such a disruptive home life themselves. They were moving house to house. They had parents who were addicted. Yeah, it led to problems for their lives. And it's a beautiful thing to see these people doing beautiful things today.
Yes.
I think one of our singers, Mark's producing the show right now, and what a background she came from, and out of addiction and drug courts and all that kind of stuff, and today to be singing on the praise team and worshiping God and being a light and an influence to others and helping so many others that are broken, and her and her husband both. It's amazing, truly is. Mm-hmm. But also God uses ordinary people, because at the end of the genealogy, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who was called the Messiah, recognizing that Joseph's not a direct father of Jesus Christ, because that was, she was a virgin, the Immaculate Conception. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Not the Immaculate Reception.
Not the reception.
That Franco Harris made that put them in the Super Bowl. I'll never forget that catch either. For those who are young, you'll have to go look that one up. But yeah, the Immaculate Conception. But I think about Joseph, he's a carpenter. He comes from a royal line, but he's not in the royal palace. No. He's like building stuff, using his skills, his hands. He's getting sweaty every day. Mm-hmm. He's getting his hands dirty, because that's the kind of guy he is. And I think about how God just takes normal human beings and elevates them and elevates their potential and elevates what they can do, kind of like the 5 loaves and 2 fish that Jesus Christ, thanks God for it, breaks it. They collect more at the end than what they had to start with. Mm-hmm. And he could just do so much with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And so many times in my life, I've said, God, here's my 5 loaves and 2 fish. Make more of it than what it is. And here's Joseph, just a simple man, doing his best for God. And God's elevating him. Mm-hmm. God uses ordinary people. God needs ordinary people.
He does. He does. So when he takes us in our ordinary state of living or mind or existence and does something extraordinary with it,
right,
when we turn it over to him,
right,
it becomes extraordinary.
Right.
So you don't have to be extraordinary and then come to him.
Right.
You can just be as ordinary as they come.
Right.
When you get there, he's going to see to it that you're extraordinary.
Right. Absolutely. But I never wanted someone to think, well, I'm too common and I don't have enough education. Right. Look at the people Jesus Christ used. Look at his disciples, fishermen, tax collector, one was. I mean, they were common, everyday people. You can be a common, ordinary, everyday person, and God do extraordinary things with you and through you. And that's what we learn as you look at the genealogy of Christ. You see that it's never too late. Like with Rahab, you see that God works in broken situations, like David and Bathsheba, where he had the husband killed and he has an affair with her and gets her pregnant, and all that is a mess. God uses ordinary people like Joseph all the way through.
Yes.
Now, there's all kinds of brokenness in the genealogy. Like you look at the kings. Yeah, that was a good one. Next one, that was a bad one. Yeah, that was a good one. Oh, no, that was a bad one. Good and bad. The good the bad and the ugly.
Like a family reunion. Huh?
Exactly. Well, life's not perfect, man. I mean, your family's probably not perfect. My family's not perfect. And I'm not perfect.
Right.
And so God uses me.
I know you're not perfect.
You know I'm not. You sure do. But you know I'm trying real hard. No, I'm not. And I admit that. And I'm okay with that. It's just I always want to do the best that I can. I realize I'm not a perfect person. I'm fortunate that God uses me at all.
That's right.
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
We're not perfect. We're just forgiven.
Yeah, we're just forgiven. Mm-hmm. But you know, when you yield yourself to God and you're willing to come aside of God and go with what he wants you to do, that's when you really can do cool stuff.
That's right.
Right? I mean, that's really what makes a difference. And I think it's just up to us to say, yeah, God, I'm ordinary, but I'm going to get next to you. I'm going to get close to you. I'm just going to go with your game plan.
Yep.
Whatever that is.
That's the best thing you could do in your life.
Right. And I appreciate you doing that, with your life and all the dedication that you've given to following Christ and making a difference in a lot of young people's lives and your church's life and, a lot of people.
Thank you.
Ordinary people, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. So, hey, we appreciate you tuning in and being part of the show. Hope it's been a blessing to you. You all have a great and an awesome week.